Hey everybody, it's Dave Juno. How you doing? The Meniere's Disease Warrior. Happy Thursday. I got the day right. Um, so a lot of times I get inspiration from seeing your posts on Facebook groups. Yesterday I saw one and it was kind of a heartbreaker. And and what I mean by is that a person had posted that their son thinks that they're faking Meniere's disease. That's a heartbreaker. It really is. When your family thinks that way. Fortunately, most of my family kind of tries to understand. They know I'm not faking it. But like with anything else, they're never going to understand unless they go through it. They're never fully going to understand it. And then again, there's some people that you just can't get through to. You're just like talking to a wall. They think they're right, everybody's wrong, and that's the way it is. Some people it's just like talking to a wall, and unfortunately, sometimes it's spouses. But I have in my own personal experience with people who have thought that I've been faking it or something like that. I've had to put them at arm's length because it's not worth me getting stressed out about. And I know family, it's hard to do with, especially if it's your kids or your husband. But sometimes you got to do it. I mean, at least when it comes to the Meniere's disease side, you got to put them at arm's length. I mean, everything else, fine. But, because it's not helping you because it's just stressing you out. And I've had family members who would, they'd be sympathetic, but they really didn't understand or get it and thought maybe I was faking it. And, not my brother or my immediate family. They understood and realized what I had right away. But, extended family, and they didn't understand it. They didn't understand the vertigo part, okay? Or the hearing part, which, that's, some people think I have selective hearing. Okay, think whatever you want, but I don't. But one day, the family member called me and said, "Oh my God!" And I went, "What's the matter? What's the matter?" I started panicking. Like, "What's the matter? What happened?" And she's like, "Oh, I finally understand. I finally get what you're going through." And I said, "What do you mean?" And they're like, "I had vertigo last night." She goes, "Vertigo's the room spinning around, right?" And I went, "Yeah." And she's like, "Oh my God, I don't know how you do that 2-3 times a week, but man, I understand what you mean. I don't know what the vertigo was from, but luckily I wasn't. There's so many things that can cause vertigo. I mean, your blood pressure can drop and cause vertigo. So there's so many different things. It wasn't an ear problem, thank God. But she's like, I finally get it, and she, I was like, well, I'm sorry you had that, but I'm glad you understand that, when I don't go to things, it's not that I'm faking that I'm having a Meniere's attack. It's I'm really having one. And yeah, and understand. And sometimes that's what has to happen. It has to happen. Somebody has to get hit in the head, like, to understand what's going on. One of my cousins a couple of weeks ago, he knew I was sick, but he didn't realize what I went through, and that's fine. And he understood that I was sick, but he never had vertigo before. Well, he had vertigo. He called me. He's like, "Man, I understand what you're going through now. I'm sorry, I choked around the right post." I'm like, "Hey, dude, I understand. We're almost like twins, because we grew up in the same house, the same age, like a couple of months apart." And I'm like, "Dude, don't worry about it. I'm never upset about your comments. I think they're funny." But he's like, I think I had vertigo. And I'm like, "Well, what happened?" And he's like, "I was just sitting there talking, and the room just started spinning around." And I'm like, "Yeah, dude, you had vertigo." Luckily, his wasn't an ear problem either. But, and like I said, blood pressure, I mean, vertigo can happen for so many reasons. It's not just your ears. So, yeah, sometimes, and the point I'm trying to make is sometimes they have to go through it for them to understand it, even if it's a minute vertigo. they have to understand it. And sometimes I'll tell people that don't understand, like friends or acquaintances, and I'll say, take a baseball bat, put it on your head like this on the ground, and spin around real fast. Spin real fast. Then stop after 30 seconds or whatever. And they stop. They're dizzy. The world's going like this. And I go, that is vertigo. That is how I feel when I have an attack. Oh, okay. So there are ways to try to get people to understand. This person who made that post might want to do that with their son. Tell them that put a big baseball bat or a stick, or even just go like this with your eyes open for 30 seconds, then stop. And you could say to them, that's what vertigo is. That's what I go through. They might understand it then. So, some people just won't do it. Others are willing to say, okay, let me give this a shot. Maybe it will show something. But yeah, a lot of people, and especially friends who see this as you don't look sick. That's why they think you're faking. They think you're making it up. And sometimes you gotta kind of understand their point of view. And that's a lot of times I've talked about that too, is you have to understand the other person's point of view, what they're seeing. And that's why I don't get mad usually anymore when people think I'm faking it or doing something like that, because they don't understand. They don't have it. So if they don't have something, they're not being ignorant. They're not being stupid. They just don't get it. And it's hard to believe when you don't see. Because people don't, in a quote, a religious thing, quote, a Christian thing that Jesus has said, walk by faith, not by sight. Okay? Some people have to see to believe. Okay? Other people have enough faith to believe without seeing. And that's generally what it is. That you can't see vertigo. If I was having a vertigo attack right now, the only way somebody would be able to tell me is somebody who actually really knew me, and they would see my eyes like going like that. But other than that, somebody would look at me and go, "Oh, you're fine. There's nothing wrong with you." Well, I'm, or I've been, when I was working through this, I was having customers call my boss and telling him I was drunk, and they would be like, "That's impossible. Dave doesn't drink." He would stick up for me, but yeah, I got a lot of calls from customers doing that, saying I was drunk or whatever, and so it was crazy because people don't believe. So, don't beat yourself up about it. I know it's hard not to, but you got to kind of understand the other person's, whether it's family or friend, their point of view is you don't look sick. And that's why they do it. Like I said, you can, and I've said it before, you can bring them the doctor's appointments. You can do the little bat trick I did with the spinning around trick that I did, so they could feel what vertigo is. But other than that, you're gonna hear that. And to this day, I mean, I've been dealing with vertigo problems since 2014. That's almost 10 years. In December, it'll be 10 years, and I deal with it every day. Every day I've got somebody thinking I'm faking it, or thinking I have selective hearing, or this, that, and the other thing. They don't realize I can't hear. I can't. I'm deaf on one side, and I've probably got about, I think it was like 40%, 40 to 50% hearing on the right. So I've got, I got a half an ear doing the work of two. So that's even more harder to deal with. So yeah, it happens. It's going to happen. And, like I said, don't beat yourself up about it. There are options, that you can, like I said, drag them to an appointment, do the vertigo spin around trick, have them spin around and see how they feel afterwards. But, other than that, don't get yourself all worked up and in an argument, because what's our biggest trigger? Stress. Right? Stress is our biggest trigger. If you're going to beat yourself up about it and get mad and try to force somebody to understand something, And you're just going to end up having a verdict and having another attack. And it's not worth it. So, on that note, guys, hey, have a great day, and I will talk to you all soon. Take care.